Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Hitting Bags and Stealing Balls. I'm your host, Matthew Fitzwater. Today is Sunday, April 27th, 2025, and we don't have time for all this, okay? No introductions. We got to keep it moving, okay? I'm almost caught up. I've got one more episode after this, and then we're good to go. This is from the 21st to the 24th. That's the series we're talking about. And since I don't have a lot of time, we're going to go through about 5 series right off the bat. Going to rush through them because they involve teams that nobody cares about. So let's get into it, all right? We're going to start off. Royals host the Rockies, and they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They swept them in 3 games. The final score of the 3 games is 4-3, 7-4, and 6-2. You're welcome. Now let's move on. An AL Central matchup takes place in Minnesota as the Twins host the White Sox, and the Twins did exactly what they were supposed to do, minus 1 game, as the Twins would win the first 2 before the White Sox would salvage the series with the 3-game victory. The final scores were 4-2, 6-3, 3-0. Next up, the Pirates would start the series off in LA against the Angels with a win in Game 1 and a win in Game 2 before the Angels would finally salvage the series in Game 3. The final scores were 9-3, 3-0, and then 4-3. And then we have the Rays traveling to Arizona to take on the Diamondbacks, and after a 5-1 loss in Game 1, they would take the series with 2 wins coming in extras in the last 2 games, 7-6 and 7-4. And then we have an AL West matchup taking place in Sacramento between the Rangers and the A's. And the Rangers would start it off with an 8-5 win before the A's would come back and win the final 2 games, 5-2 and then 4-3. And then I want to give a shout out to Nick Kurtz, okay, who made his Major League debut in Game 2, who is supposed to be another young kid for the A's, man. They're building something over there, I'm telling you guys. He would pick up his first career hit and RBI. So congrats to him. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about him as the season goes on. But I want to highlight a catch made by the A's shortstop, Jacob Wilson. Take a look at this.
Hard shot, diving, played by Wilson. Gets to his feet. The throw is perfect. And they retire Berger.
Jay Willie going lateral. I mean, this ball stung right back up the middle, and Jacob Wilson, a great first step reaction, knows he's going to have to.
What a catch that was in Game 3 for the young kid. Love to see that. He's going to be a star. He's playing really well, and he would actually walk things off for them in that game. So Jacob Wilson in Game 3 definitely did it all. But we're done talking about that series. We blew through about 4 or 5 right there. Now we'll get to the ones that have a little bit more meat on the bones, and we'll start with the Cubs and the Dodgers, as they would play their 3rd series of the season, this time in Chicago, and just a 2-game series. And Game 1 was electric. 6 home runs, 27 total hits, and 21 total runs, as the Cubs would win it in the 10th inning, 11-10. The Dodgers would then come out with a bullpen game in Game 2, and the Cubs would again win it by 1 run to take the 2-game series with a 7-6 final. The Yankees would travel to face the Guardians, and in Game 1, they would be held scoreless until the 7th, but by that time, the damage had already been done. The Guardians would take Game 1 against the Yankees 6-4. Game 2, Aaron Judge would go 4 for 4, but it wouldn't matter as the Yankees couldn't get a base runner on for him to drive them in, and the Guardians would win a close one in Game 2, 3-2. Finally, in Game 3, the Yankees would get the win to prevent the sweep, as Carlos Rodon would have his best start of the season, throwing 7 shutout innings and striking out 8, as the Yankees win it 5-1. On Tuesday, the Mariners would charge into Boston behind Bryce Miller, but Boston and Brian Bayo would get the win, 8-3. And then Seattle would come back and even the series with an 8-5 victory in Game 2 before Garrett Crochet would give up 4 runs in just 5 innings on Thursday, and Seattle would take the series on the road with a 4-3 victory. 2 first-place teams would battle it out in Detroit as the Tigers host the Padres, and in Game 1, the Tigers would score 2 runs in each of the first 3 innings and hold on to win Game 1 6-4. The next 2 games would each include a shutout, as Nick Pivetta would throw 7 scoreless innings in Game 2. and the Padres would win it 2-0. But then in Game 3, Reese Olson would come out and do the same exact thing, this time for the Tigers, as the Tigers closed the series out with a win, 6-0. Next up, the Reds would travel directly south into Fish territory as they would take on the Miami Marlins, and in Game 1, Max Meyer would be waiting. 6 innings and 14 strikeouts. That's more than 2 an inning. Okay, that kid is the real deal. You're going to be hearing a lot more about him. But the Marlins obviously take Game 1 behind that stellar pitching performance, 6-3. And then the Marlins would win Game 2 4-3 before the Reds would finally come back to prevent the sweep, as they would get a 5-2 victory on Wednesday behind Brady Singer getting his 4th win on the season with 6 innings pitched, only allowing 2 runs. Next up, 2 disappointing teams would clash in Atlanta as the Braves would host the Cardinals. Game 1 would see both bullpens get crushed, but the Braves would hold out to win 7-6 in Game 1. In Game 2, the Cardinals would rally late again against the Braves bullpen and win it 10-4, before Game 3 would see the Braves win the series with a 4-1 win. The Blue Jays would travel quite a ways down south to face off against the Astros in Houston, and Hunter Brown would be waiting with an absolute gem, which I've said before, and it's not going to be the last time I say it again, because my gosh, that kid can throw the ball. 7 innings, 0 runs, 9 strikeouts, as the Astros take Game 1 7-0. And then Ronel Blanco would lead the Astros to another win in Game 2 behind 6 2/3 innings, only allowing 1 run, as the Astros would take Game 2 5-1. And also, I just want to mention that 5 Astros all recorded an RBI each. So that whole team was eating that day. Good for them. But in Game 3, the Blue Jays would fail to prevent the sweep. They would lose it 3-1 as they then fall below a 500 record. We've got 3 series left to talk about. I'll save the best 2 for last. And so next up, we'll go with the Orioles, who would travel to the nation's capital to take on the Nationals. And Game 1 would make the Orioles start to question everything, as Mitchell Parker would shut them out across 8 innings, and the home team would dominate 7-0. Game 2 would see another win for the Nationals, as they would get a 4-3 victory before the Orioles would come back and prevent the sweep in a boring Game 3, 2-1. Next up, the Giants would host the Brewers, and in Game 1, nothing of note would really happen, but the Giants would win it 5-2. And in Game 2, it would be all Brewers, as Christian Yelich would hit a grand slam and the Brewers would win 11-3. Game 3 would go good for the Giants, though, as Logan Webb would continue to dominate as he brings his season ERA below 2, which I'll just go ahead and throw this out there in case you guys don't know. ERA is earned runs average. That basically means how many runs is he giving up every 9 innings pitched. So that means that Logan Webb is giving up less than 2 runs every 9 innings that he pitches. Yeah, that's great. The average, I'd say, is probably from 3.5 to 4, and anything below 3.5 is pretty stellar. I think anything below 4 is pretty stellar, but it just depends on who you ask. Anyways, we'll move on to Game 4. Giants would win it 6-5, and they would win the 4-game series 3-1. But I'm going to go ahead and play a video for you because Christian Yelich in Game 4 made this error, and it's rough, man. It's rough. Take a look. Yeah, so not only did he miss the ball, which should have been a super easy catch, he slipped. And
we're just
look,
getting started
it happens
here,
to
so
the best, it happens. He's a
it's
great
unacceptable
fielder,
and
okay?
need to
It's
be
not
better,
because
which
he's not good.
we all know, but it's
that's
good to bring attention to it.
That's
And
got to be rough because when
flush
he
this
gets
one,
asked
keep
about it
going.
after the game,
it was just top spinning away from me, going to the backhand.
You got to be embarrassed, okay?
Dismissed.
First of all, I don't know what the weather was like. I don't know if the Giants are known for having a rough field because it looked like he just slipped on nothing, to be honest with you. It was very weird to see, but it's also a little funny, you got to admit. So I wanted to show that, and hopefully that doesn't happen, much more this season. And I'm glad he didn't get hurt, because you can always tweak something when you slip like that. But Giants do end up getting the series win. So now we'll move on to the final series, which sees a matchup between the two best teams in the AL East, as the Mets would host the Phillies, and the Mets would get the 3-game sweep against the Philadelphia Phillies. Oh my gosh. Are the Mets that much better than the rest of that division? I didn't think so going into the season. You saw where they sat in my rankings, but they're off to a hot start. They now have a 5-game lead in the East. And in Game 3, it was pretty beautiful to see Pete Alonso tie it before Marte walked it off just to complete the epic sweep at home. You gotta love to see that. Even though I've got bad blood with the Mets, just like I do the Dodgers, okay, still, it's pretty crazy to see them off to this great start. And although Juan Soto hasn't been hitting at the level he's supposed to, my highlight for this episode does include Juan Soto. And take a look at this. Throwing out the tying run at home. You gotta love that, because he's not known for a super strong arm. But when you can throw it on the money like that, I mean, that's exactly what you want from an outfielder. So good for Juan Soto. Great for the Mets and that fan base. They have a 5-game lead in that
gears up for the throw home.
Yeah, they could always blow it. We know that. But, I mean, it definitely is. They're off to a very fast start. So if they can make that, lead even grow bigger, my gosh, look out in the AL East. But the final scores of these 3 games were 5-4, 5-1, 4-3. So that concludes the series recap. I appreciate you guys for listening. One more episode left and we're caught up. You're going to get the standings. You're going to get some stats. Get pumped, you guys. Thank you for, letting me catch up here. Like I said, it's, Easter Sunday threw me behind a little bit. I'm sorry. I hate, uploading episodes with no real excitement going on, But we're going to get back. You're going to get your power rankings, okay, in a couple days. So look out for that, and just thank you guys so much. Just like, comment, subscribe, share, get me out there, like I always ask, and stay tuned, you guys. Thank you for being patient.